What's the password?
New England Clam Chowder.
Is that the red or the white?
I can never remember that. White?
Welcome back to In Between Cuisine. I'm Tony Hickman. So I was kind of, getting some ideas for what to do for the next video. Then my son said, you know what, Dad, why don't you make some clam chowder? I like clam chowder, haven't had it in a while. Can you make some? Well, all right, I can totally do that. So today we will be making some New England clam chowder. It's a little bit labor intensive in the prep work. And the cook time is about an hour, so it's not something that's simple, and it's not exactly the cheapest thing either. But if you're like me, I love clams, so clam chowder is definitely a go-to. And the good thing is when you make it yourself, you get to add as many clams as you want. I don't know how many of you have gone out, ordered clam chowder, and maybe every third teaspoon of eating the soup, you finally get a clam. That's not how I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna load my clam chowder up with clams. It's called clam chowder, not a skimpy chowder. So I want clams in every single bite that I take. So without further ado, let me show you how I do clam chowder. Let's get started. All right, let's get started. So I got my skillet out. I have it on medium heat. Now you want to start this with a fatty fat, I guess. So baking grease works. You can do butter, but we're gonna go ahead and do something a little fattier than that. Gonna do good old lard.
Excuse me. You guys down here hear about the ongoing cholesterol problem in the country?
I don't really cook with lard too much, but it will give us that fatty flavor that we're looking for. Not exactly the healthiest thing, of course, but get that in your pan and melt it down. I think I actually used too much. Yeah, this is going to be too much. I'm going to take one of these out. I don't need that much. We'll keep this guy in here. And while that's melting down, I'm going to have the description and ingredients. The ingredients all down in the description, guys. So don't worry about that. So first thing to go in is going to be your potatoes. I use 2 whole, just regular Idaho potatoes for this. Now I'm making a lot. If you don't want to make this much, just cut the recipe in half, because this is actually going to be a lot. But I like stuff that's hearty and filling. I'm not making this as a side dish. I'm making this as a meal, just by itself. Then we're going to do 1 whole onion. That was a big onion. And we're going to do 4 celery stalks. Then I'm going to mix that all in together. Maybe I should have kept that other lard in there. So actually, now that I have it in there, it's actually way more than I thought it was going to be. Make sure that's all nice and coated. And we want to cook this down for a long time, more than a typical saute. We really want those onions and potatoes to cook down, especially the potatoes, because this is how they're cooking. They're uncooked at this point, so they're going to need some time to cook. So we're going to cook this down for about 20 minutes, and I will see you guys in 20 minutes, and we'll take a peek and see how we're looking. All right, so it's been about 20 minutes. Everything's cooked down. I mean, the potatoes aren't all the way cooked, but that's fine because we still got plenty of cooking still to go, and they will be by the time this is all said and done. So at this point, we're going to add some butter. like so. I know it seems like a lot, but hey, there's a lot of potatoes in there. So we need to make sure we get everything nice and coated. I'll let that melt in a little bit. Should help it along the way. Doesn't have to be melted all the way at this point. Then what we're gonna do is add some clam juice. Just in case you guys are wondering what kind I use. That's the kind they had at my store, HEB, so that's what kind we're going to use. I say I'm making a lot, so again, I'm gonna eventually, I have another pot out here. I'm gonna have to switch pots, put it into a big soup pot. But for the cooking, you want to make sure you use a pan, just so you can get all the flavors cooked right. Because you really can't cook it that well in the pan. Go ahead and turn this up. Once you put your clam juice in, and bring this to a quick boil, continually stirring. And once that comes to a boil, I'll be right back. Now that we got this up to a boil, we can add some seasoning. Got some pepper. Got a little bit of thyme. And a little bit of dill weed. Stir all that in. This is also going to finish cooking the potatoes. So once you got it boiling, reduce your heat a little bit down to like a medium low. Keep it at a simmer. And again, you want to let this part sit for an additional 15 to 20 minutes. Let all the flavors get in together, and it will finish cooking those potatoes. So always keep your eye on it. Come back and stir this every once in a while. And I will see you guys again in about 15 minutes. Alright, so I realized when I came back to the editing floor that I forgot to turn the sound on for this clip, so I'm going to do my first voiceover here. So at this point you want to add some parsley. So actually you probably should have added that the step before, that way it could cook in a little better with the other spices that we just did. But you want to go ahead, stir that around, make sure everything is again nice and coated and even. You could really see how the consistency here has changed. Those potatoes are cooked down so much that you're kind of getting almost like a pasty type consistency, and that's actually what we're going for. But if you want to thicken this up, you want to add a little slurry here. So as you can see here, I had 4 teaspoons of flour with the clam juice from one of the can of clams that I had. Now going back, this was just a little too much, so I would cut that in half. If you need to use this thickener, only use 2 teaspoons of flour with that clam juice, or add a whole bunch more clam juice. Because the final product, I could still taste the flour just a little bit, and that's not really what we're going for. So, you will be adding your clams and stuff here soon, which will help thin it up because clams do hold a lot of moisture. But you just want to be, aware of how much flour you want to use. You did use a little too much at this point, but as you can see, that pasty consistency at this point looks really good. That's the whole point, is to cook those potatoes down so they're almost transparent, because this is a clam chowder, not a potato chowder. So again, stir that around, and now just off camera I do have a pot because this is about to be too much for my cast iron. So I am going to switch this over to a bigger pot so we can continue cooking. Alright, so I got it transferred into a bigger pot here, add our clams. Now I do two different kinds of clams. One, I had 2 cans of whole clams, and then I add 2 cans of chopped clams. So we're gonna put both of these in there. I've already drained them. Now if you want more of that sauce, that clam sauce, you could use the sauce from those cans as well. In fact, that's what I use to make that slurry. So I'm gonna put all these clams in there. That look like a lot of clams, which is awesome because it is a lot of clams. So I say I want clams in every single bite that I take. Give that a good stir in. I don't know if you could tell on the video here, but it's already looking like it's, you know, getting a little thinner just because the clams hold moisture. Now you always want to add your, you know, clams, you know, next to the last ingredient because they're already cooked. So if you cook them, if you add your clams at the beginning, they're going to be kind of chewy, a little rubbery. So make sure you add your clams, you know, further into the process of cooking. So now that you have that all mixed in, you're going to add your cream. I'm gonna go ahead. I said I made a big pot, so I'm gonna go ahead and add this whole thing. Where did it all go? Now we want to stir all this around. It's finally actually starting to look like clam chowder now. But we're not done cooking yet. We're actually gonna bring this to a quick boil, just like we did before, and let it cook some more, and really let all the flavors we added incorporate with the cream. All right, you guys, so I just had it brought to a boil. I'm gonna reduce the heat now down to a low. And we're going to let this cook for an additional 20 minutes. Really let all these flavors get married to each other. And make sure you guys are at this point are tasting it. Make sure your seasonings are correct. So this made a big pot, so I realized I kind of lacked on the seasoning. So I added some salt, added more pepper, more dill, and more thyme, because it was just a little lacking in that, because it just made, you know, quite a big pot, so I didn't put enough in. So I'm gonna let this cook on a low heat for about 20 minutes. Should thicken as it's on the low heat. And I will see you guys to wrap this up in about 20 more minutes. So it's been about 20 more minutes, like I said in the beginning, and this does take a little while to cook, just because of all the cooking it has to do, especially for the potatoes. But you let it sit until you get it to the consistency you want. I don't know how you guys like your clam chowder. A lot of people like it soupy, some people like it extra thick. Just like the name of the channel, I like it somewhere in between. So this is actually looking pretty good to what I would expect if I were to order it in a restaurant. So take a look at that ladle. That looks so... Did I totally fog that up? I don't know if you guys could see that with all the steam coming through there. But that's what I was going for. That is potatoes and clams in every single bite that you take, instead of having to swim around and every once in a while you get lucky and get a piece of clam. This thing is overloaded with clams. Every spoonful just has a clam in every single bite. Now, I'm not going to eat this in front of you guys just because I wear a microphone under my shirt, and I've listening to some of my old videos. I just don't like how it sounds when I'm chewing food on the microphone. So I already ate some of it right before I started this little clip, It tasted great. Again, you need to season it to your liking. You know, if you need to add more salt, pepper, dill, or thyme, whatever you need, go ahead and add it. Depends on how much you made. So this is a pretty decent sized pot. So I would suggest maybe you cut absolutely everything just right in half. Have half this amount unless you want this for a good amount of time. You could totally fridge it. Should be good for up to a week. Or you could feed a lot of people with it. Corbin, this one is for you. This is what you wanted me to make. So this is your lunch tomorrow, bud. So there we have my New England clam chowder. It's simple to do, just a little time consuming. And again, it's not the cheapest thing to do, but if you're like me, you love clams, it's definitely top shelf the way to go. So hey, if you missed any of my other videos, click here or right there. Give those, you know, a quick look, like and subscribe down below. I'm Tony Hickman for In Between Cuisine. I'll see you next time.